Please introduce yourself when you start. We'll start over here to my left, your right, and proceed down the table. Please speak directly into the microphone, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Aloha, o Joseph Kuli, Lindsay Kamarako Uinoa, o Mauna Kea Ku Mauna, o Wailukuku Uwai. I live with my ohana in Navauma Okele of Kaumana. I'm here to testify against the issuance of SMA permit 1800070 to Piilani Partners LLC for the installation and operation of a commercial well extracting water from the Mauna Kea aquifer. The public trust doctrine, the Mauna Kea aquifer and all freshwater sources in Hawaii are trust resources held in trust by the State Department of Land and Natural Resources, who has the fiduciary responsibility to protect, control, and regulate the use of water resources for the benefit of its people. The SMA permit would allow for public trust resource to be harvested for commercial gain with no compensation to the trust beneficiaries, the people of Hawaii. The state also has a specific fiduciary responsibility to Native Hawaiians to be compensated for the use of trust resources. Piilani Partners LLC plans to make no compensation to the county, state, or Native Hawaiians or consultation on this matter for the use of this trust resource that it proposes to extract and profit from. I watched some video of the December 6th Planning Commission meeting where Mr. Fuchs and Attorney Pam Bond articulated that the proposed use of water for this SMA is far below the sustainable yield of the Mauna Kea aquifer, or Mauna Kea Onomea, they called it. And there are no competing uses for this water source. What their statements do not capture that the Mauna Kea aquifer is a closed, pristine water body that has not been tapped for use. The Mauna Kea aquifer contains fresh water under a closed, pressurized system, making it artesian. Beyond the straightforward extraction rate from the Mauna Kea aquifer, drilling and well installation pose a far greater risk to the aquifer. If drilling or well installation activities compromise the cap rock, which seals the over 100,000-year-old closed system, there is no way to fix the problem. The cap rock being 1,000 feet below Mauna Loa substrates, 1,000 feet below the surface. The Mauna Kea aquifer is a highly pressurized system that if compromised could leak out and forever compromise the system. Even if this SMA does not compromise the system, it sets a precedent that anyone can extract from this system, which over time will increase the likelihood that it will be forever compromised. Lessons can be learned from our past mismanagement of our rare artesian water sources like the Pu'uloa aquifer underlying Pearl Harbor and the Ewa Plains in Oahu. This resource was once artesian, but overdevelopment of wells compromised the system, and now the once pristine system is now contaminated with military and agricultural waste, which is really one of the greatest tragedies in Hawaii's history. Alternatives to this resource must be considered. There is abundant fresh water above the Mauna Kea aquifer that is not artesian or sealed, which flows to the sea in the Mauna Loa aquifer that can be extracted from shallower wells. I'm not advocating for the extraction of water from Mauna Loa for commercial use, but merely stating that there are alternatives to the proposed action. It was also stated in the December 6th meeting that because the Mauna Kea aquifer is not a designated aquifer, it is not regulated by the DLNR Commission on Water Resource Management. The Mauna Kea aquifer is unique in the world, and we are still learning about the extent of the largest freshwater resource in Hawaii. Our current criteria for designation was not created to account for a resource such as this. This is by far the greatest water resource in Hawaii, protected from pollution, able to fuel all of Hawaii's domestic water needs for generations in the event that other systems are contaminated or compromised. As our greatest water resource, the Mauna Kea aquifer should be subject to the highest standard of conservation and review available, regardless of whether it's designated or not. The State Commission of Water Resource Management.
Please wrap it up.
It's 2 minutes already.
Yes.
Okay. Beyond that, these waters is sacred to Kane. It's the Waikapua Kane from the summit of Mauna Kea. The start of this aquifer is Waiau and Waihu and Puakuloa, which flows into this resource from the heavens down 11,000 feet below sea level, touches the magma hotspot. These elements come together to create life, to create new lands. So it's not just sacred by some mythology or some, it's not voodoo. These waters are sacred because they're part of creation. And we should really give this the highest level of review and before we even think about ever tapping into this resource. Look at all alternatives.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Corey Harden for Sierra Club Okolua Group. Thank you all for your service on the commission. We oppose taking public trust water from a deep, pristine aquifer just to send a lot of it off island, spawning plastic waste that will persist for generations, and all to enrich just a few people. Several issues. Native Hawaiians. Native Hawaiian leaders have opposed this project. And following the Public Access Shoreline Hawaii decision, Native Hawaiian rights and cultural interests must be protected. Community benefits. Piilani has offered $100,000 in student financial aid to offset public trust impacts. And that's commendable, but it's inadequate to offset the impacts. And Earth Justice has questioned whether community benefit payments fulfill public trust obligations. Well shut down. If the well flows freely with no pumping, and then the plant goes out of business, who's going to take care of this free-flowing well, or who's going to decommission it? Submarine groundwater discharge. There will be 200,000 gallons of underground water with whatever nutrients they carry, suddenly not migrating to the ocean. And what's going to happen out in the ocean? No one really knows. Noise. If the county decides to shut down the plant because of excessive noise, how exactly would this be done? The staff has expressed doubts about noise issues. State citizens. The waters of the state are protected for citizens of the state. Are the project owners citizens of the state? The Kauai Springs decision. This commission may be obliged to deny an SMA permit based on that decision. State Office of Planning made several recommendations, and I can't quite see where those got followed. Environmental assessment. The plant's going to require sewer line extension, road construction, streetlights, traffic controls, causing multiple environmental impacts using county land, and that will attract future projects which will have their own impacts. And a recycling center, Piilani has offered to rent space for a recycling center. That's commendable, but they put in so many conditions it may never happen, and that would generate more traffic and might trigger an environmental assessment because there's going to be 2 structures on that property. Thank you.
My name is Floyd England. I'll speak at the next one. I'm totally against this thing because I think it's a bad idea, but I'll go through it when the people are here to address them.
My name is Maddie Mae Larson. I reside at 94-6511 Palaoa Street over in Ka'u. I am the owner and founder of Upcycle Hawaii, and I am here to testify against the water bottling facility. I think we can all agree with what these folks have said, and I think we all know the statistics that creating bottled water is a net loss of water. It takes more fresh water to create a bottle of water than we contain within that water bottle itself. My biggest concern is where are we going to put the waste that we are going to generate when we create this facility. I am flabbergasted that we are going to ban polystyrene and then we're going to move forward with creating a water bottle facility. As you can see next to me, I have brought my props. This bottling facility will indeed be bringing in super sacks full of plastic pellets. These super sacks are non-recyclable, whether we have the facilities or not to process them. These are going to fill up in our landfills. The landfills which are closing, which are meeting maximum capacity, and we have no more room to put stuff. Furthermore, as a volunteer for Hawaii Wildlife Fund, I spend hours on the beaches every single month picking up thousands of pounds of plastic waste. I have personally picked up thousands of plastic water bottles myself. And so I just think it's common sense going forward on an island in the middle of the Pacific where we're supposed to be the front leaders as far as like loving our aina and, you know, malama pono. I just can't use any other word than asinine to describe the way that I feel about us putting forth a water bottling facility. We don't have the space to put... we don't have the space to put the waste, and furthermore, if we're looking at creating 8 jobs, I can tell you that we can create 8 jobs very easily in other sustainable practices. So I will be back at the next testimony, but I think you all know how I feel about it now.
Thank you all. I know emotions are running high and that you want to applaud and yell and clap, but every time you do, whatever the testifier is saying is obliterated from the record, so you may want to hold back a little.
Pause what they're saying, and it'll still be on the record. We just want you to know how much we support what they're saying.
Okay. Will the next 4 testifiers please come forward? That would be Gary Harold, Hank Ferguson, Ellen Schumer, and Joo Lee Stoll.
Good morning.
Please speak into the microphone, introduce yourself, and proceed. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, Planning Commission. My name is Hank Ferguson. I'm the spokesperson for Nakapuna Moku Okeapi, which is a kupuna organization representing all 6 districts of the island of Hawaii. My testimony is very short. First of all, I want to let you know that we are in absolute opposition to this bottling plant. Some of the stuff has been brought up before, but I want to reiterate that water is a public trust asset, and you're talking about using public trust assets for a private purpose. Also, the area that you're talking about is close to the Wailoa Park. That was where the old caning factory was. And in case you didn't know, most of the debris from the last big tsunami, the Hilo, is buried in that park. And so the leakage of metals over time has got to be in that area. It just doesn't make any sense to even think about drawing water from that area where we already know that above it is all kinds of toxic stuff. There is a big question too, is a trade-off of permitting. Because if I understand this correctly, this was an old permit from Suisan that they're trying to bring back to life. This is a totally different type of operation, and it needs to go to a whole new process of permitting. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close now, and I will be back for this next meeting. I do want to say that this is getting kind of crazy, you know, that we come here. This is the 3rd time we're here, okay? And we're having the same problem of getting our testimonies out into the public in front of the right people. Unfortunately, I've been at this too long. I know most of these will end up in the trash. Thank you.
Thank you, Planning Commission, for your work listening to the public in a democratic way. I'm Gary Harold. Touching the heavens, mountains called the Sierra Mound. Plastic, straws, lids, cups, bags, bottles, plastic surround. Maybe someday Pele will ejaculate 'neath the ground. Incinerating cup of noodles and Tupperware with a burping sound. Our higher power knows we overconsume. On our Aina, we've got so little room. Our garages fill up, our rubbish stuff fills up, so does our dump. Instead of plastic bottles, infill our transfer station with Trump. Ship water across the world by fossil fuels. Mother Nature knows we don't follow the rules. Your reusable water bottle, schlep it. Then Gary will not have a snit or fit. Leave water in the ground just like dirty oil. Our dear resources, we must respect and be loyal. Thank you.
My name is Ellen Schumer. I appreciate being able to participate in government and speak freely. My heart sank when I saw Hilo is considering having a water bottling plant. My hope was our society and government were going to see the light and make plastic bottled water illegal very soon and start passing legislation regarding plastic use and packaging. Plastic has been a great invention, but there's such a thing as too much of a good thing. Governor Ige and Hokulea have spoken well about the idea of Hawaii being able to demonstrate to the world how to be sustainable. Planet Hawaii within planet Earth. So we are honored to be able to do that, and we have to walk the talk. There's talk that telescopes and space exploration are modern, forward, futuristic endeavors that we need to embrace. I say, how about we start with more immediate and pressing issues like consuming less plastic and protecting clean water as a public resource and basic human right. The wars of the future will be even more focused on resources, as will the very survival of the human race. I envision our good citizens all willing and able to take the simple step of having their own reusable, non-plastic water bottle and home water filters or delivered water to fill them with. This is already cheaper than buying bottled water and empowering and the right and very easy thing to do. We could also have bottle filling stations such as airports and other public places have. It's looking like recycling has not worked out and is coming to an end. It was a noble effort. The wolf is at the door. I have heard it said that what Americans fear the most is not terrorists, war, or famine, but lack of convenience. We lead the world in consumption and carbon footprint as a people, and I believe we can and will change our ways. Let's start in Hilo. Thank you, Piilani, for trying to bring what might have been a few hopefully decent paying jobs and tax revenues to Hilo, Hawaii. We welcome you to come up with a better idea. Thank you.
Aloha, my name is Joo Lee Stoll. I live on the Hamakua coast. I am opposed to the granting of a permit to Piilani bottling plant. Water is a public trust resource. It's not to be used for private business. The plan is this water would be bottled, generating more plastic waste. This is not what we need. We need safe, clean water for people to drink here. And we should have places for people to get water and refill their bottles. Hawaii should not be adding to the plastic waste in the world. We should be leading the world in how to aloha aina, malama aina, how to take care of that which feeds us. We live on a remote island, and we are seeing the impact of our modern lifestyles on our environment. This is deeply saddening. Drilling into the Mauna Kea aquifer could compromise the sealed, pristine, artesian water source. This is the greatest water source in Hawaii, and it should remain untouched. We don't know what the impacts could be. Please consider all that we are sharing. Water is the physical manifestation of spirit in the world, and we should protect this resource, this relative, with everything. Mahalo.
Board to come up, please, to testify. Han Pak Mandor, Susan Rozier, Shirley Hargrove, and Michelle Provost. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Aloha, my name is Michelle Provost, and I live on the Hamakua coast. And I oppose the drinking water facility proposed there. First and foremost, water is sacred, and we must protect it, and we are blessed to have that water here. Let us consider the impact. One key word is plastic bottles. We have to think globally and act locally. This is why I oppose more plastic bottles in my community and worldwide. We cannot continue to abuse the earth in this way. It is not Pono and it is not sustainable. Warning, if we do not respect the earth, humans will die in masses. We must respect the earth that gives us life. Please let us on the Big Island support sustainable living. Mahalo.
Aloha. My name is Han Pak Mandor, and I keep thinking about the International Panel for Climate Change, the report the UN put out last year. I think it was really pivotal in the global consciousness about where we're at with the survival of all species on the planet. So here we are today, January 3rd, 2019. Remember this year, 2019 is going to be the year when historians look back and go, that's when people changed and woke up. If we survive as a species, that's when they'll look back, because of that pivotal IPCC report. It catalyzed a movement in Europe called Extinction Rebellion, where people in England were demanding that their lawmakers realize that we are at a pivotal moment where now priority must be given to the perpetuation of life on Earth, not just regulations, ordinances, and zoning, although that is extremely important. I'm not arguing with that. In any case, we started Extinction Rebellion here in Hawaii, and we took the logo in England and we adapted it for Hawaii, and you can see it's an hourglass with heaven and earth, and it's running out of time. But I wanted to talk about how does Extinction Rebellion relate to a plastic water bottling operation? Well, here's how. I have some photos, you may have seen them already. This is the photograph of the albatross. This was taken about 10 or 15 years ago when people first started realizing that our animals are becoming extinct due to plastic ingestion because they don't know it's not food. It's everywhere, not just in Wake Island, where this picture was taken, but also in the Antarctic, where polar bears can't find any fish anymore because of the depletion of fish, and now they're trying to suck on plastic bottles, like the plastic bottles that will be shipping out from the Piilani water bottling plant. Many whales filled with tons of plastic in the ocean have washed up dead. Many whales all over the world. And here in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, we have a Laysan albatross feeding its baby plastic because that's all there is in the ocean anymore. In fact, I believe that the amount of plastic is equal to that of plankton. Plankton gives oxygen to the ocean. The ocean is the #1 provider of oxygen to our atmosphere. So as we continue to produce carbon into the atmosphere, how are we going to counterbalance that with oxygen if we're killing all the plankton? Finally, here's a snapshot of the middle of the open seas. No land anywhere. Check out all the plastic. And a river in the Philippines. I don't see any water, do you? It's just plastic. And it goes on and on and on. There are thousands of pictures like this all over the world. So it's a no-brainer. We must make changes. This is what Extinction Rebellion is asking. And I'm going to pass out a letter, an open letter that was written by an international panel of leaders of Extinction Rebellion talking about the urgency with which our government and our elected officials need to switch paradigms. We're in a new world, 2019. Happy New Year.
Good morning. It's hard to follow an act like that, I gotta tell you. I put this over here so that you could see the symbol while she is talking.
Please introduce yourself.
Susan Rozier. I didn't come here to really talk about extinction. However, the project that you're looking at absolutely connects to that. And I think that it's time for you folks to start thinking with your heart instead of other people's pocketbooks. We've come to a point actually we've exceeded the point on most of the islands in this archipelago where you seem to be following the trend that made Oahu such a congested place, and Maui, where I come from, is looking like a mini Oahu. This project originally was to use pipe water. Pipe water. I don't know what has changed in the paperwork that allows them to use water from Mauna Kea aquifer, because suddenly one of the partners has spirituality. And if he truly had spirituality, he would not touch Mauna Kea water at all, ever. It upsets me that he even found out it was there. Pipe water was bad enough. We have the #1 export from this island is bottled water. What is wrong with you? Even considering one more. The amount of plastic, I did recycling on Maui. The amount of plastics is absolutely incredible. You know why people do not save them for recycling, and the reason is because it takes so many of them to make the poundage. And the recycle centers are only, they only have to count 200. So you can get your nickel back or your 6 cents back, but by the count, but you can only count up 200. And that's the reason we have a big plastic problem. Cans are getting recycled, they're easy, they're smashed, and they're done. Bottles lose that little sticker and it's not allowed. And that's the reason, just so you know. I would like a show of hands of how many people here actually read the SMA. It's 8 boxes. And they wouldn't give me an electronic, and I asked months and months ago, they wouldn't give me an electronic copy. They said one wasn't available right there in that office, the planning office, you folks' office. So I know you guys are not allowed to answer any questions, but can you put your hand up if you read it? Has anybody in here besides me read it?
You know, I think you're mistaken.
So you haven't read the SMA, and I really believe that an EIS is required for anybody that's going to drill, and these guys don't have it. You guys are doing permits off of old permits. What in the world does a bottling company have to do with a fish processing plant? Why do they get to skate through on things that were issued years ago that have no relationship to them at all? You are our commission, and I really appreciate your being here on this job. I understand how hard that is. And these are hard things that I'm asking you. These are hard things that the community is asking you. But you are our representatives, and only you can change things. We can only ask you. It's up to you to do the right thing. Do what is Pono. Mahalo.
Aloha. My name is Shirley Hargrove, and I'm a resident of Hamakua. And I'm here because I oppose the bottling plant. This is such a beautiful nation. It is such a amazingly wonderful place to be. And all that these plastic bottles will bring is just continued waste, continued pollution, and something that is basically indestructible. It will be with us forever. It's not like it's going to biodegrade. It's not going to disappear. It's just going to further accumulate. And I'm real appreciative of those images that were shown of animals that were dissected or showing up on the land filled with waste. And I cannot see Hawaii contributing to this waste stream, contributing to further death and promoting extinction. And not only extinction of animals, but extinction of us as of people. And you have the power to influence this. And I would really appreciate that you would consider the potential harm that this decision would make if you continue to support this bottling company. Thank you.
Please proceed, Mr. Souza.
Thank you. Matthew Makayo Kalani Kiwilani Koko Maeda Souza. Everybody just calls me Kalani. It's a lot easier. I'm on a bunch of different federal boards and state boards. You guys know, for the most part, still working with the University of Hawaii. I'm wearing this shirt because I like to have sex with my wife and she's supporting this cause. I think emotional intelligence is something we have to respond to. I can appreciate what Chairman Clarkson said about rising emotions perhaps getting in the way of pertinent testimony. My grandfather said, as the rainmaker, probably the most important thing for you to know, boy, is when it's gonna rain. Because then you run out in front of the people, you say the appropriate chants, you bring the water down, it reaches the lo'i. I thought, wow, Tutu, why the ruse? This is leadership, boy. He says, we don't wait for the emergency to happen before we decide who's in charge. We establish those lines of leadership way ahead, and they're built with trust. I want to suggest that as we look at the Beltway and what's happening internationally, and these situations have happened to us before here in these islands, that we're holding a different hand here. There's a moral center that we hold here in Hawaii as we do public discourse, as we do planning. We don't need to erode this leadership further. You guys have been doing an outstanding job under a lot of pressure to create economic development. You guys know I work with Schuyler Business College. I'm suggesting, you know, like I taught at DERP, as you know, for years. The planners, they come through my class, or did, you know, now that I'm out in community. The bottom line is, as we do these processes forward, we have to engage in a genuine way. It's a high-risk moment, right at this moment. I don't think we can afford to erode public trust as we're addressing some national standards that are a bit underwhelming. We don't need to add fuel to that fire. You can see from the color of the shirts in the room that this is just beginning. I mean, this is just beginning. It's going to be at the Capitol. It's going to be engaging the Solar Observatory. There's a lot of things happening. It's bigger than any one individual. So, gentlemen, ladies, I'm asking you, solid leadership means we care for the people of this community. My grandfather said, when times are good, the children should learn to feed the elders first. They should learn the place of respect and the reason why we respect wisdom and the intergenerational connectivity. But when things are difficult, when danger is present, the children should be fed first. They are the future. And the right elders will refuse to eat because of the return of investment. I'm suggesting this moment may be a critical moment where we should feed the children first.
I'd also like to say thank you. My name is Dylan Crawford, and I do appreciate you, lady and gentlemen, for hearing testimony today. I'd like to state that I'm in opposition of this water bottling facility based on just my experiences as a surfer and a haole but a Hawaiian who grew up on Molokai and was raised by a very wise Hawaiian man on the East End. And you know, we'd walk the coastline. Molokai is really known for its self-subsistence. Yeah, there's a lot of hunting and fishing and farming that goes on over there due to the cost of living and other factors. So, you know, with my experiences walking that coastline from a young boy from the age of 5 years old and seeing like the nice glass bottles on the beach to, you know, slowly turn into like, you know, water bottles and all the fishing fodder that gets washed along the shorelines that needs to be taken out, that at this point has become micro trash where you pick up a handful of sand and it's colorful. It's got nice pink and green plastics all intermingled within it, and the fish are eating it, and the turtles, the whales, everything. You know, it's become a part of the ecosystem. And it used to be that old antiquated saying, it's the economy, stupid. Well, you know what? It's the ecology, stupid. It's not about that anymore. The time for change is now. That's what this shirt represents. This is an hourglass that is showing that the earth is running out of resources. It's running out of patience. Just the earth itself is running out of patience with us. The ecosystems are collapsing. And, you know, I went back to Molokai this last October, and it's painful to see what those coasts look like today. It's completely... It's a dump. It's just a complete dump. And I see you guys with your Aquafina water bottles up there, and you know, I don't know what you're gonna do with them at the end of the day, but you're gonna forget about it. But those water bottles have a memory, and they're gonna be long after we're gone. They're still gonna be around, potentially in the ocean. And you know, the ocean is my church. That's where I find my solace. And I just see my church getting polluted, and it's painful. And furthermore, I just think the Big Island has a lot of potential. Yeah, we have a lot of intelligent people. We have a amazing island, you know, and I think that we could do a lot better to be leaders, yeah, instead of followers. And when you open a water bottling facility like this, you're just following. You're following the money. You're following a bad precedent. You're moving forward. And I just am completely opposed to putting out more plastic pollution that this planet does not need. And I thank you guys for hearing my testimony. Mahalo.
Claudia Roar. I just want to say, how do you put into perspective what everyone's saying? Why is this under your authority to consider this? You're charged with considering the secondary impacts of this project, which everyone is saying is extinction. You've been done a disservice. The planning department is administering the application before you. They did a very poor job. After going into the planning department 3 times and raising my voice, I finally got the file for the original GP amendment ordinance 91-72 yesterday at 4:15. I sent it to you at 10 o'clock. In that folder was a feasibility study done in 1990 where the planning director was ordered or was directed by the county council to do a feasibility on the GP amendment that Suisan requested. That feasibility study came up with it's inappropriate to have industrial zoning on that land, which lies between the Ho'olulu Park complex and the Waialoa River Recreation Area. The background report, which I also sent you, is on that GP amendment, has numerous agency comments against industrial use in that area, including the DLNR land division in charge of the state park. I didn't see anything from them this time. Did the applicant actually send them notice? Did the planning department ask for their comments? I think the disservice was the non-disclosure of that feasibility study in the background report. You didn't provide, or the planning department fell down on its responsibility for open disclosure and non-bias recommendations. The EA, the analysis of environmental review, I sent you the form. No boxes are checked, yet an integral part and a prerequisite to this property development is extending the public sewer line under the county-owned land 174 feet down Piilani Street. This is not simply a sewer hookup. There is no listing on any exemption list for extension of a public sewer line under county land. And if you think there is, that means it's a potential trigger. And the procedure is to send out requests saying, we would like to exempt this action under Chapter 34. Agency, please give your opinion of this exemption. They didn't do that. There's no record. You're open for a lawsuit just based on the recommendation you gave to the county council to forwarding it with recommendations for approval. You should send this back to the planning department for a redo and an EA before this goes any further and you waste taxpayers' dollars, because you will be sued. How many people in this room believe that? An extension of the public sewer is not a minor action or a minor thing that can be exempted. You must consider the whole project, including the sensitive area, which is the aquifer they're planning on drilling into.
My name is Nelson Howe. I am a Sierra Club member, and I fully support what Corey Hardin, as our executive committee leadership, said about this proposal. I too am opposed to the Piilani bottling plant proposal. And the basis for my concern is the plastics waste. And I'd like to just again note there are 4 plastic bottles here that the commissioners are using, 5. Thank you, Chairman. And I also would like to note that there are numerous foam cups here. There's a whole stack next to the coffee maker over there. And I think that the county itself can do better. And I think you're hearing from the public that we want the county to do better. We want there to be wise choices made by the leadership here. And I fully support that. And I also want to thank every one of you and the staff for being here, conducting this hearing. It's an awesome process that I'm glad to participate in. I've also participated in cleanups of the Big Island coast with the Hawaii Wildlife Fund run by my friends. And I'm just so disheartened every time I go down there and pick up debris from international fishing operations to local people having their plastic rubbish wind up on a Ka'u coastline. And it's endless. There's a conveyor belt of plastic, rubbish, and marine debris that washes up on our island shores. And I feel like we're just running running a losing race. And I would like to see the Big Island contribute to stopping that flood of plastics into our ocean. That is really my main concern about this proposal. It doesn't have to happen this way. As part of Recycle Hawaii in the past, I would try to reuse these plastic bottles, and I would have them in my vehicles carrying water, so I don't have to, if I needed to wash my hands or drink something in the middle of a drive, until I realized that the plastic bottles themselves leach chemicals into the water that surely isn't good for you, and over a lifetime it could be detrimental to your health in terms of cancer or some other thing. And as a litter pickup, or I would say a toxic pollution pickup crew, I too dug my hands into the sand in Ka'u, and I could see that the plastics just get smaller and smaller. And then I love poke, and I go to Suisan as often as I can afford it, and I'll try their different blends of poke. And then I began to go, I want to go there because it's locally caught wild fish. It's not farm-raised fish. And then I began to wonder, because the science is coming in, that the fish are uptaking these microparticles of plastics in the open ocean. Our ahi go all the way to Japan and then come back. It's a life cycle. Their ocean is their backyard. So I would like you folks to consider that when you make your decision. I know there is concern about the legalities of saying no to an industrial zoned proposal, but I think there are overarching issues that can overcome those legal questions. And battle it in court if you have to. Take that bold stand and say, we're just going to make a small step towards ending this toxic pollution of our ocean. So thank you for listening to all of our testimonies.
Thank you. The next and last group of testifiers.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Komaki Rathbun. I'm here not necessarily to represent anybody in particular but myself. But I feel like it's important that we come and communicate with you guys. Really appreciate what you're doing. I know I came here last time and had several mouthfuls and it's a little bit garbled, so I just like to make my message today a little bit more concise than last time. And I don't want to repeat what I already said, so and I'm not prepared or have written anything or thought about what I would say to you a little bit. So I just want to say a little bit about water. First of all, do any of you know how much water there is in our solar system, for example, or in our galaxy? Does anybody know? Nobody knows the volume of water. We know that water goes through transformations and things like that in the natural processes, but there's the same amount of water, I believe, here today that there's ever been since water was first manifested in this place, okay, where we dwell as creatures. And so the water volume has probably not changed, in my opinion. That's not scientific, just my view. But regardless, water is a finite resource. Water is sacred, and by sacred design or sacred management, we've been blessed here in these islands with an abundance of fresh water. The Arctic tractor, which travels from the far north and the frozen north, brings pristine, fresh, ancient ice melt at the bottom of the ocean in a river that flows to these islands. And in fact, I think they're trying to harvest it in Kona if they're not doing it already. But we have this abundance of water, yet water is not free of being altered or changed. So we know from research and from a lot of different sources that water is affected by many things. But what I really wanted to say is that we are very much water, as we all know. The water is not just in the ground or falling from the sky. The water is in everything. It's in everything, okay? The water has rivers and streams and lakes far below the surface. The rivers and lakes and streams are on the surface. The rivers and lakes and streams are above the surface. They're in the sky, they're in the atmosphere, they're moving. I was ridiculed recently, it was funny, I was ridiculed recently by a comment I made online about this issue, but it was mostly about, specifically about the waters of the Amazon. Okay, so the water, the evaporation process, it goes up, the clouds form, they travel, and the idea was that the person that was ridiculing me saying that the water goes all over, I said, no, it remains in the Amazon for the most part. No, you know, I'm insane, you know, water moves all over. Yeah, that's true, but let me tell you something. Recently, some scientists put out the thing, and I just had to laugh because I already knew this. The water rises, it moves to the east of the Andes, it freezes, and it returns back into the basin. The water of the Amazon remains in the Amazon, okay? So the water in Hawaii should remain in Hawaii. I believe that, that exactly opposite our planet is Okavango Swamp, which is an enormous freshwater source. It's the largest inland freshwater delta in the world, I believe. And it's exactly opposite. If you took a magic rod and drove it through the planet, it's exactly opposite us in the southern hemisphere. If you tilted Okavango up and tilted Hawaii down, we're actually on the equator. So it matches a point in South America and a point in Sulawesi, which will not shift. But if you actually would rotate the planet up to its actual true equator, the equator runs right between Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa, the neutral zone. Hawaii is a very special place. Hawaii has been inundated in many ways for not just with the arrival of Western, but you know, in many times in the past. So what we need to do now is not about preservation, conservation, it's about restoration, because conserving and preserving is not enough. We've done so much damage. And the other thing I want to say about the water is, we talked a lot about the plastics. And it's true, we can see the plastic bottles, we can see the pictures of the trash all over the place, all over the world. And when I lived in California, I was very blessed to live in a very beautiful area called Monterey Bay Area. Well, the Waikiki white sands came from Pebble Beach, and you know, the cattle came from Monterey to the ranches here initially. But Monterey is a beautiful, beautiful place. They have a very deep trench there in the ocean, extremely deep, comes into the Salinas River mouth. And it has the upwelling of all those nutrients and the wealth of the ocean, which makes it a very rich marine resource for all the wildlife and the people. When the Spanish arrived there in the old days, when they found it, Monterey Bay, they said the sea lions and seals are so abundant, you could walk across their backs to Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz is 45 miles across the bay. So what I want to say about the plastic, I see you want me to shut up. What I want to say about the plastic is that the plastic's not just on the beach and in the sand. The sea salt, when you go to Island Naturals today, or wherever you buy your sea salt to stay healthy, it's got plastic in it. Plastic is in all the sea salt. Okay, so we need to mitigate that, if not just staunch it, stop it. There's something called hemp, and I hope that somebody in this universe will come before you guys at some point, like Piilani, with a project to maybe produce a hemp plant that can produce vessels that will be able to be recycled completely without damage here locally and not sent out.
Okay, thank you.
Aloha Kākou, my name is Catherine Benjamin. I live about a block and a half away. And separate issue, but we're talking about water this morning, is that year after year after year, I watch pesticides, herbicides, Roundup get sprayed right next to the preschool of Chief's Kapiolani School. Right into the waterways, not 200 feet from where your uncles are going fishing. We have abused water in every corner of this world. And this is not you personally. This is not America. It's every capitalistic, every colonial structure on this earth. We are past the point. I'm hearing a lot of optimistic people saying, we'll look back at 2019 as the year where things change. We need it to be the year that everything changes immediately. There is not time to go to meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. How many hours have all of you spent sacrificing when we're supposed to be earning money or taking care of our children to come and speak at these things so that everyone can take our testimony, put it in a big pile, and carry on with the project? It's beyond infuriating. I remember feeling this rage when I was a 10-year-old child. Our children right now know that what we are doing is inane. It is insanity to continue to poison our waterways this way. And yet, capitalism, colonial structures, and this prolonged and very strange illegal occupation of America in the Hawaiian Islands. It is the elephant in the room, and each and every one of you have a duty to adhere to the Geneva and Hague Convention and do your job in the Planning Commission of not allowing the steamroller that is wiping life off the planet that is the United States. Kona's gonna run out of water. They're putting all their water into who? Americans coming over for their holidays. What happens when we need the water from our aquifer to give to our own people? Well, it all got bottled up and shipped off so someone can make some money. Who's gonna make the money? Not the people here. My prayer is that you take this as an opportunity to change things. To be a planning commission, to be a committee, to be a legislature, to be whatever board it is that we sit in front of that says, oh, I looked around the room and I listened to the people and they're right and this project is done. Now let's go and do some real work. Because maintaining the status quo and keeping terrible things from happening over and over isn't progress. That's us just doing everything we can to make things not be that much worse. Progress is going and rehabilitating. Progress is saying there doesn't need to be a single more plastic bottle manufactured on Earth, ever. Let alone a new company to make more of it. Every single one of you, you have been to the ocean, you have picked up this plastic in your hands. Every single one of you. There's not a person on Earth who has not seen the ravaging of plastics. Enough is enough. When somebody comes and tries to violate my physical body, I have the right to say no. It's not very well respected most of the time, but I have that right. And our Earth is doing everything she can to be a voice through us to say no. And we shouldn't need a laundry list of all the reasons why. No means no. I oppose this project and any other further commercialization of plastics, of petroleum, or the abuses of water in Hawaii.
Hello, my name is Joo Lee Stitz. I'm going to keep it short. I want to say that I strongly oppose this project. Our oceans are clearly past the points of we can't continue going on doing what we've been doing with plastics. The oceans can't breathe. We can't exploit our resources here. It's a bad project for our community and for the people. And it has nothing good to offer any of us here. Thank you.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Nani Pai. I oppose the Piilani Partners Water Bottling Company. A little bit about me. I spent 31 years as an educator, most at Kamehameha, both on Oahu and here on Moku'okeawe. One of the things I taught when I taught grades 3 to 5 was the importance of the ahupua'a system. And critical to that was the understanding, I think, of wai, or water, fresh water. And so when this proposal came up, I thought about it, I read about it, you know, trying to keep abreast of what's happening both here and abroad. And I thought, well, I'm gonna come and see if my voice lends to the greater voices in the room. So, the importance of wai. When these islands were first populated, it didn't even half resemble what you see today, or even 100 years ago. But just like today, the ability to get fresh water was important. So much so that when the measure of wealth to our people was the word vai. And I don't know, I apologize for coming late, but that might have been already shared by some of the people that provided testimony earlier. And so, people think, yeah, well, we know that, but do you really? How long can a person survive without water? You can survive a few days without food. How long can we survive without water? Now, I want to shift the importance of, I heard everybody's testimony, and yes, our planet is in dire straits. But I brought my mo'o, one of my mo'o today, my granddaughter, because I wanted her to see what government is like. She's only 9 years old. And the role that government plays in making decisions that will affect her in her lifetime, if we're lucky enough to survive that long. There are many reasons for not approving this permit by Piilani partners, so many. There's a plastic issue, of course. We're already inundated by plastic. Trying to make small steps towards becoming more sustainable myself. It's not easy by any means, but every small step in the right direction is a good step. So I want you to think as you're deliberating, please think about your keiki, your mo'opuna, your grandchildren, and what we are leaving for them. Are we making this world a better place for them? Really? That's what's important. Because most of us in this room have already lived most of our lives. But our children and their children and the children to come are just beginning theirs. So, mahalo.
Thank you all. And there'll be at least one more chance to testify. The 2 or 3 today. So now we go to administrative matters.